I'm here to talk to you about something extremely important, although a lot of people aren't aware of it because it underlies a lot of the goods and services that we use today, and that's intellectual property. And intellectual property is under attack, both domestically and internationally. And this is really important to understand why, but a lot of people don't do so because they don't understand the foundations of where intellectual property has come from and its key role in the United States and in American exceptionalism. You see, the founders created a republican government dedicated to the protection of life, liberty, and property under the rule of law. And this included the very important key protection of intellectual property. And so the American founders were not just political entrepreneurs who broke from England and our broader structure and nature of our government. They were also entrepreneurs in recognizing that creators and innovators should have the fruits of their labors protected to them, just as farmers and tradesmen historically have had theirs protected under the law. Thus, in the Constitution, for the very first time in human history, a founding document creating a government authorized that government to protect patents, which are property rights in technological innovation, and copyrights, which are property rights in new creative works like songs and movies and books. And in fact, Congress immediately acted on this. The founders recognized how important this was. And so some of the very first laws enacted by the first Congress in 1790 were the Patent Act and the Copyright Act of 1790. And thus, securing the intellectual property rights to all creators and innovators, it became a foundation for driving the Industrial Revolution in this country in the 19th century. Many people don't realize Samuel Colt's repeating firearm, the foundation of our Second Amendment protections, was a patented invention. So was Samuel Morse's telegraph, John Deere's plow, Charles Goodyear's invention of vulcanized rubber, Thomas Edison's light bulb, his invention of the record player, of our electrical distribution systems, our ability to use electricity. And thousands of other innovations arose from the protection of the rights of innovators in our country, confirming for the whole world that America was not just a beacon of liberty and freedom, it was a beacon of innovation and creativity, the true shining city on the hill. And thus, in the 20th century, protection of intellectual property drove the high-tech and biotech revolutions that we're all enjoying the benefits of from today. So the work of Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, scientists and researchers working in their garages and universities in the 1970s is what gives us our miracle cures and our incredible high-tech technologies today. And this is confirmed again and again how important this is. A recent study by the Department of Commerce found that companies that rely on intellectual property rights in their business models contributed more than $6 trillion to the US economy in 2014 and were responsible for 45 million jobs that year. 30% of all the jobs in the United States are based in intellectual property. President Abraham Lincoln, our first Republican president, wisely recognized this important principle when he said himself, quote, "The patent system added the fuel of interest to the fire of genius," end quote. And by the way, President Lincoln knew of which he spoke. To this day, he's the only US president to have received a patent on an invention that he created. Now, this is the foundation by which we need to understand the attacks on intellectual property today that are occurring both internationally and domestically. Now, domestically, like all property rights, like you just heard, are under attack in the United States, and intellectual property rights are under attack as well. It's become nearly impossible to obtain a patent in recent years on new high-tech innovation and biotech inventions that provide us these miracle cures, our smartphones, as I mentioned, our medical treatments for cancer and other things. And so the US is in danger of losing its long-standing status as a world leader in innovation. Internationally, US innovators are under attack in other countries, like China and South Korea, who use their antitrust laws to target US companies and inventors for the sole benefit of protecting their own domestic companies and their own consumers. And these countries repeatedly failed to crack down on rampant piracy of creative works on the internet. Now, what makes this even worse is these countries have rationalized their attacks on US innovators and creators by pointing to the very changes in the laws here in the United States that have weakened these protections. And to make matters even worse, the Obama administration repeatedly refused to defend US innovators and creators when China and other countries attacked their rights. So US competitiveness in the global economy is now threatened because our very rights of our own creators and innovators, the foundation of our innovation economy for over 250 years, has been seriously weakened and undermined. And this is so, I urge you to support wholeheartedly intellectual property rights across the range. They are key. They are just as fundamental as our property rights in our land and our personal goods. In a recent letter to the Trump administration and the 115th Congress, over 70 organizations and individuals, including the ACU, wrote, quote, "The founding fathers understood that by protecting the proprietary rights of artists, authors, entrepreneurs, innovators, and inventors, they were promoting the greater public welfare. The continued protection of these fundamental rights is essential to American innovation and competitiveness," end quote. So we should reclaim America's rightful leadership by securing stable and effective intellectual property rights for all innovators and creators. Thank you.